a brand new week. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning. We have 55 minutes to do current and relevant business conversation right here. I'm Indi John Mekwa, and we'll get right into it. Starting from the global oil space, prices fell today. Investors are awaiting details of what Washington has billed as its toughest ever sanctions campaign against Iran, while Tehran dismissed the threats of intensified economic pressure. And for that, we saw a drop in the price, 1.75 down to $92.74 for Brent, while WTI has dropped more than 2% at $85.18. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is set to unveil a new package of sanctions against Iran. That's expected later on today. The announcement follows President Donald Trump's threat last week to launch the most crushing economic operation. That's how President Trump has described it ever taken against Iran. Iran has pushed back against the threat. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Tehran, they say they have ways to counter the adverse effect of the enemy's war and can easily establish economic relations with other countries. You would remember that President Trump had also threatened that any country that deals with Iran would also have some sanctions coming from the United States. So we'll see how that plays out. Now let's look at the Strait of Hormuz this morning. This was taken about an hour ago. With all of this that's going on, we see that 7 ships are transiting. In the last 24 hours, we've had 7 ships transiting there. It's about 0% of the normal activity that we would have seen there. And then in the last 24 hours, today there have been plus five vessels in waiting, and all of them bulk carriers. So last week we had about 300. We see that has increased. I wonder if this is a little bit of hope, given that Oman and Iran are also having conversations about routes around there. So there are 425 vessels in waiting to go through the straits this morning. And then we see 180 tankers, 120 bulk carriers, and then others make up 125, making this 425. And then we see daily throughput at this time is 10. The International Lighting Expo is packaged to be a core collaborative bridge for sustainable and zero carbon lighting technologies between China and Nigeria. Well, Africa, including Nigeria, especially Nigeria, receiving a lot of attention from China. And what we make of it, obviously, is or depends so much on us. I'm talking about attention now. There was a meeting between stakeholders from Central and West Africa focused on establishing stronger connections between major African commercial cities and transforming the principal corridors of Nigeria and Cameroon into continental markets. The initiative is aligned with the vision of the African Continental Free Trade Area, that's the AFCFTA, which seeks to strengthen intra-African trade, facilitate movement of goods, and develop regional and continental value chains. Within this framework, the African Union of Transporters is expected to play a major role in transportation of essential commodities. And I hope you can remember that the African Union of Transporters, they're going to play a major role right there. Well, we have an individual who was there at the meeting there last week. I think it ended on Friday, right here in the studio. He's the Vice President of West Africa Association for Cross-Border Trade, Mr. Salami Alasho Adura. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning, madam. How are you? That's a long time.
Yes, it's been a while. you are busy doing inter-Africa trade cross-border, so that's why you haven't had time for us.
But not that. I don't believe in a lot of meeting. Going to meeting every time. I've been complaining to my elders in Nigeria. We like too much meeting.
So the action that you prefer.
Yes, we think we need to go into action.
So tell us about this meeting you were part of most of last week because I was trying to get you since last week and you couldn't make out time, between West and Central Africa. Why these two parts, and then what came out of the meeting?
Yes, thank you very much, madam. I think in year 2024, we have a meeting in Morocco among the private sector specialized on movement of goods. We decided that we need to connect West Africa and Central Africa. For that reason, we have several meetings between our counterparts from Central Africa. The first meeting we had in Garoua, that is in Cameroon. The second meeting was held in Yola, and this meeting now is in Nigeria. So what we are trying to do is we want to minimize cost of moving goods along the two regions. We have about 3 important corridors. We have Yola, that is Yola Garoua. The other corridors is Maiduguri Kusiri, and the third corridor is the Unfum, that is the Ecom corridors. We are thinking that after 65 years independent, we cannot continue pashi-pashi. When I'm saying pashi-pashi, turning around, let us move our economy. Because today, we are in the war. The Americans are looking for our raw materials. The Chinese are looking for our raw material. The Europeans are looking for our raw material. How do we be competitive? That is why our other colleague from Central Africa came to Nigeria about last week ago. We have done the assessment on Lakaji corridors, that is Lagos, Kwara, Nanja, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, and Maradi. That is Maradi is in Niger. We have done the assessment on Lagos, the new corridors going to coastal region, to go and see what is the challenges. And then we have done a miracle that I want to tell Nigerians. Alaji Dangote, we have to continue praying for him for long life and good health. When I was in the refinery with other colleagues and MIS, I was shocked because I've seen the youth graduates who are taking over Nigerian economy. I've seen women who are the real engineer. I was asking questions. Is he in Nigeria? Some of our other colleagues who came from that side were surprised. Finally, we are trying to see how our SME product will be competitive. This is the mission between the Central Africa and West Africa. How can we promote SME product? I'm not talking about the multinational group. The multinational group, they have the way they promote their good. How do we promote Nigeria SME for them to capture our neighboring countries? We want to establish a continental border market between Nigeria and Cameroon.
So before you go on, sir, I'm just curious, why West and Central Africa? Is it because of the proximity? Because of course we have South Africa, we have East African. So is it because of the proximity? Is that why Central and West are starting this plan?
Yes, madam. When you are talking about trade, you need to capture your neighboring country. What are you going to do in East Africa? What are you going to do in South Africa? When you did not capture those who are nearest to you, and then you say you are going to other places, we decided in Morocco, the first thing is let us capture West Africa and Central Africa. I can send my good by road today. If you go to my 2, You can go by road from Lagos to Douala by road. Lagos Douala by road through Ikom. From Douala, you can go to Brazzaville and Kinshasa. That is what we are looking for. How can we promote our good among the two regions? Because we share border together, we have similar cultures. So the moment, if we can capture Central Africa, we cannot talk about East Africa. We can talk about South Africa.
But I mean, from past conversations, infrastructure is a major one. If you want to drive from here, and that is why a lot of people say, why should we continue looking at road when we can actually do air easily and do train easily? So when we look at the security risk, when we look at the infrastructural cost, which I mean still has a lot of gap even within the region. So how do you hope to overcome this? Or wouldn't it be better to try and make the air perhaps more affordable?
Oh, yes, madam. I want to talk to you this morning about the security challenges. You mentioned infrastructures. Who will provide security? Is our government. What are they doing with our money? The money they are collecting, the tax we have been paying. I'll give you an example. Before the security challenges between Niger and that is the largest countries. If somebody from Burkina Faso want to buy onion from Niger, you have to go through Kanchari. Kanchari is a border between Niger and Burkina Faso. When there is security challenges, I have to go through Manaville, that is Benin Republic, which I have to go through. I have to pay transit levy in Benin Republic, pay transit levy in Togo before moving to Burkina Faso, and I'm going to spend about more than 450 kilometers. Now that Manaville border is closed, I have to go through Samia corridors. When I'm going through Samia corridors, I'm going to pay transit in Nigeria, transit in Togo, transit in Benin Republic, and I'm going to spend about more than 1,300 kilometers, where I'm supposed to spend 800 kilometers. When you are talking about security, again, what our government are doing, what are they doing? In terms of infrastructure, if you go to East Africa, go to South Africa, go to Europe, they have good road. The moment that our government did not take a decision to resolve the issue of insecurity, to resolve the issue of infrastructure, we are just wasting our time. Now, you are talking about movement of goods by sea, by road. That is another alternative. What is the cost of moving goods from Lagos to Abidjan by air? What does it cost me? Between Lagos to Abidjan is about Lagos to Kano. That is the distance. Lagos Abidjan is about 1,000 kilometers. Lagos Kano is about 1,100 kilometers. How much does it cost me? The landing cost is very important. When you are talking about moving goods by sea, by air, the landing cost, let them come and tell us, when Nigerian government should come and say, if I want to send so tons, let us say 30 tons of good by air to Abidjan, how much does it cost me? If I want to send similar good from Lagos by road, how much does it cost me? Our government should focus on infrastructures. Let them resolve the issue of security. Let them resolve the issue of transit levy. I mentioned something. I say if I want to send good from Nigeria to Togo, to Ghana by road, I'm going to pay transit in Benin. transit in Nigeria, transit in Togo, when I'm loading good in Koni in Niger Republic. So all this issue of going by air, and then sit down to do funding. The landing cost is very important, madam. If you don't have a landing cost, are you going to be competitive? Where you want to take that good to? What is the landing cost? Who are your competitors? You don't know those trade barriers. You say you want to go by.
So what resolution did you come to at the end of the meetings last week?
But last week, what we decided is that we are going to establish a continental market along the border between Nigeria and Cameroon. Those who are from West Africa, we don't need visa among ourselves. We have similar policy. So it's meaning that somebody from Senegal can bring his good at Unfum. Unfum is the border between Nigeria and Cameroon. Somebody can bring his good at Gambaru. Gambaru is the border between Nigeria and Cameroon. Somebody can bring his good at Mobi. Those three borders will be used where we are going to exchange products between Central Africa and West Africa. That is part of the solution.
What about the currency? What currency are you going to use? Because, payment system is also a challenge, even though we have PAPs trying to solve that.
Madam, there's something that people should understand. Take an example of Dangote group. Yes, not Dangote, Dantata. We have our policy. And that's why I told the intellectuals, we trade by barters. Yes, when you go to Megatari markets, at Megatari markets, people from Niger, from Chad, they will bring livestock. I can say it in public. 85% of livestock at Megatari markets is coming from other countries. In that market, we sell manufacturer goods to them. We have a system, and part of cross-border traders is a system put in place before the independence by our parents, and they have belief in each of them. I have somebody in Accra. That person, I want to buy kola nut. They want to buy onion. No problem, shikena. Yes, go and see so person in so places. That is how we trade in Africa. Because the issue is our politicians doesn't go to the right way. I will tell you why. How can you ask a poor man from Ikom, Ikom in Cross River, and the poor man from Mamfe, that is in Cameroon, to go and look for dollars? How can somebody from Koni in Nigeria, and somebody in Ilela is in Nigeria, Koni is in Niger, and then you now sit down and say that go and look for pounds, go and look for dollars? Where do you want you to go and look for that money? The issue is 95% of trade we are doing in Africa is through trade by barters. Bring this thing, you bring this one. That is the way we work. And there's no way. I'm sharing this another experience with you. When the late Papa Romeo is the managing director of Foundry, we wanted to establish Nespo trade in Burkina Faso. And we transferred $10,000 to Burkina Faso. I can say it in public. We could not succeed because the headquarters of CFA based in Senegal. The French government had to do a proper investigation. Say, if you allow Nigerians to come and establish Nespo trade They are going to take over the market. Because they have a policy that establishing a distribution center in Abidjan for the French-speaking country, and they establish a distribution center in Senegal, will assist them to maintain the issue of CFA. I was part of them in year 2002. I can say it, when I was being nominated to go and discuss about the eco currency. So when we were in Accra, the hotel accommodation was paid by European Union. The feeding was paid by European Union. The transport allowance was paid by European Union. And I told those big men, those professors, those doctors who came from Nigeria, I say, Oga, I think the former president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce was there. I say, all these things we are doing, Europe. They say, why? I say, number one, the person leading the meeting is a Frenchman, is a Oyinbo. Those who pay us allowance now from their money. Now we want to have eco currency. I told them on that meeting, he can't work. Oh. They said, no, he will work. Do we still resolve the issue of eco currency? The moment Nigeria is sleeping, dreaming, Nigeria didn't take the leadership of African continent. We continue dreaming. But when Nigeria, we decided, say we are moving. When Alhaji Dangote, Aliko say, I'm going to build refinery. When Nigeria want to do something, he will do it. But the moment we are continue sleeping, I don't think we can move forward.
Well, I hope we're awake now, and we'll certainly put our hearts to it as Nigeria, the giant of Africa, so that we can make it work. And I mean, the eco conversation, that one is. But anyways, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Vice President, West Africa Association for Cross-Border Trade, Alhaji Salami Alashadura. Thank you for your time, sir. We'll certainly reach out to you. Hopefully, you will have time for us in the nearest future, so we can have you again in the studio.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted you ask about Azulud policy. You know, I did not talk about it.
Yes.
It's only Burkina Faso who enforce Azulud policy. You know, Azulud policy is to maintain your road. When people will be loaded, one truck that can carry three truck. But the Burkina Faso president say, we don't get money again. Those people are not giving us money. So we want to follow the Azulud policy. If you arrive today at Burkina Faso borders, you have to weigh your goods. Now you are talking about infrastructures. Where is the toll gate along your corridors? I'm asking you a question. When you cross, when my brother Amechi was the minister of transport, we traveled together by road. When we arrived Semeboda, the moment we cross, we have seen the infrastructure has been improved. And I asked him a question, Minister, you see, he drives himself. I asked him a question, this is the problem. You don't have structures. You say we should not talk. Madam, the moment you have the structures, we don't need to import Oyinbo. I can assure you, we have a lot of Nigerians who are guru, who can do it. We have Dr. Awe, is my colleague. You can know Barrister Awe. We have Dr. Esemede. We have a lot of them. They can do a lot. We don't need to import people. I lecture Oyinbo on trade. Thank you very much. What I'm telling you is International Trade Center sent a lady to me to come and learn how we do trade. And I explained to that lady. I said I was following my father when he was doing business around 73. I was going to school at that time. Following my father. You say you want to look away, you go to school. How do you do? This one you buy Lara. I bought this one like this. I pay transport like this. We sit down. Now you go school. Me I don't go school. That is why I always tell people that I learn from my father.
So it's native sense.
Yes. When you are talking about trade, I learned it from my father. And when I come to Lagos, the first thing in 1979, they sent me to Ibutero. One Baba Igbona from Kwara, he don't know anything. He say, "Owa question you." I say, "Oh, no salary." So I'm going to learn you. So he was telling me all the factories in Lagos. In Lagos at that time is Kora. This India, there was a distributor. So I will follow them, go to Ilupeju, go and collect goods. That is where I learn. For somebody who did not go to school. So thank you very much, madam.
All right, sir. All right, I really have to have you another time. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Alhaji Salami Alashadura, thank you for sharing your knowledge.
So no, thank you very much. I think we don't need to go somewhere, madam.
We have the brains, the skills and all here.
We have everything.
All right.
We can add value. You mentioned about Chinese.
Okay.
You didn't talk about it.
All right, sir.
But next time.
Okay, yes.
Thank you very much. God bless you for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
All right, sir. So all right, sir. So we still have this trade conversation going on. But we have another guest now. They are talking from the legal side now, the international law and investment environment. That was a part of the conversation that was also had last week. 82nd Biennial International Law Conference. That happened in Austria. And we have Mr. Tunde Fagbonlu. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria and a senior partner at Aluko and Oyebode. They just concluded 82nd Biennial International Law Conference. And of course, we know that the law has a lot to do with business because they had for the Africa segment, the Africa Policy Dialogue, they discussed peace, prosperity, and the future of international law, geopolitics, and geoeconomics in fragmenting world. And he also moderated the second session, which had the theme, the role of international law in a fragmenting world. So good morning, sir. Welcome to the program. Perhaps you want to help us glean from the knowledge shared at the meeting, especially when it has to do with a business environment and the law, especially in the phase of the geopolitics going on now.
Yeah, good morning, Ini. It's good to be on channels. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. So, the 82nd biennial of the International Law Association took place in Vienna last week, and there was this side event that was organized by the Nigeria branch of the International Law Association in collaboration with Aluko and Oyebode and the Federal Ministry of Justice. And it was important to have this conversation because, as you know, the world is going through all sorts of shifts. There is a problem with global cooperation on multilateral platforms. And there is a race for, critical minerals by the major powers of the world, China on the one hand, and the West on the other hand. And it was very important to examine international law from two important perspectives. Number one, how international law is shaped by these events, but more importantly, how Africa can have a voice in shaping the future of international law, but also in determining its fate in the context of these shifting events across the globe. So essentially, the discussion centered around those points I just mentioned, and essentially, it was a discussion that was intended not to be just a talk shop, but one that would create a basis for future action. Fortunately, there were important policymakers in the room. The Attorney General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was in attendance, as well as the National Coordinator of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the Nigerian Coordination Office of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And against this backdrop and with these people in the room, essential deliberations were made around how can Africa prepare itself to maximize the use of its resources in the context of these shifting alliances and these global occurrences. There was essentially what you could discern as a 4-point plan. Africa needs to be legally coherent. So the legal systems in Africa, particularly those that underpin Africa's bilateral and multilateral trade relationships, have to have some coherence centered around the Africa Protocol, the investment protocol of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Then there has to be development, capacity development, negotiations of treaties underpinning these relationships have to be done by people who are well trained to get the best for Africa in this context. And then there has to be a move from just talk to action. Interestingly, next month, Nigeria is going to be chairing the Africa Mineral Strategy Group on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York. That's all part of what we expect to see happening, as part of the way Africa looks to react to these shifting developments occurring across the globe.
Nigeria as Africa, amidst all that was dissected there, what should we be doing now? And I'm glad the issue of raw materials and minerals is also there, because I think there are some reports saying that Africa stands the risk of just being a consumer of AI. Meanwhile, we have the raw materials. So what are some of the lessons, or what should, as the people, as the government, should we be doing now amidst all that's happening?
Well, yes. I think the core of all of that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Obviously, Africa needs to be looking to move from being an exporter of raw materials in the context of critical minerals, for instance, raw ore, whether it's lithium or cobalt or any of the other critical minerals. Africa needs to be looking to move from doing that to moving significantly up the global value chain. And it's happening in some contexts already. Zambia and I think the Democratic Republic of the Congo have a special economic zone that is looking to move significantly up the global value chain by processing critical minerals into higher value products. Nigeria is taking this seriously as well, I am aware, and indeed that's why, like I said earlier, the measure of the seriousness with which we are taking this is reflected in the fact that we are chairing the Africa Mineral Strategy Group in New York next month. But beyond talk, obviously there has to be action. You have to address those structural issues which might detract from Nigeria's ability to leverage on these global developments. And you have to sort out the power sector. You have to create a good environment for investments. You have to strengthen your legal regime, particularly those that relate to contract enforcement. So essentially, those are some of the things. It's almost an inexhaustible list, but those are some of the things that we need to be paying serious attention to.
All right, and we do hope that you can join us from New York next month, at least in the conversation on the minerals and all of that. We hope we will be able to get you by then, at least from New York, to tell us what's happening during that meeting. But thank you so much, Senior Partner at Aluko and Oyebode, and Mr. Tunde Fagbonlu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ini.
let's go global now. Give you what's happening from the global scene. We'll now start from the United Kingdom. There's this report saying that graduate job vacancies have plunged to the lowest in a decade. What's driving this and what implication does this have for the UK economy? We have our London Bureau Chief, Juliana Olainka, joining us. Hey, Juliana, good morning. Welcome to the program. What's driving this?
Good morning, Innie. Well, there's a multitude of reasons, we believe, but let's go to the data, shall we, which was released this morning by Adzuna, which is a global recruitment site, but specifically for graduate job hunters here in the UK. And as you quite rightly said, the data suggests that in July there were only 8,000 positions available for graduates in the UK. And if you compare that data to what was released this time last year, it's down 45%. Now, I think what's more striking is if you compare it to the past 10 years, where this time 10 years ago, there were 55,000 vacancies. So it just goes to show just how much that landscape has changed. I think most people here in the UK would notice that AI has made a real difference. I remember when I was 16, Innie, I was working on the high street in retail, and lots of young people at the time were able to use their weekends or after college or uni to work as a cashier, basically. Those jobs are almost completely gone on the UK high street. Typically, if you go to Oxford Circus or any of those main shopping plazas, you'll be meted and greeted by AI, and that's really sort of where the sector's going, not just in closed stores. We're also seeing it at the checkouts in supermarkets. So essentially you're sorting yourself out at the end of your shop, which means tens of thousands of jobs have gone. I think why this has become a major concern for the government is that in a couple of weeks we have over 250,000 young people entering university. So if 250,000 people enter university, surely only 8,000 jobs being advertised at the end of that is not great. And I think it's definitely something for overseas students to think about, because we know how expensive it is to come and study here. And if you make that investment in getting a British degree and you're not guaranteed a job, it's not that great. So pretty alarming data from Adzuna this morning.
Yeah, Julian, and I'm glad you said that, because we Nigerians, we do like the UK a lot. We come and study and hope that we'll get a job. Well, entry-level jobs are going fast. I mean, look at from 55,000 to 8,000. The difference is huge, and who knows what it will be by the end of the year. So thank you for sounding that warning. But I mean, we also had the warning from the Russian president, but it seems Prime Minister Bonham is not deterred by that. We heard he's visiting Ukraine.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, has actually arrived in Kyiv. He arrived in Ukraine a couple of hours ago, and that's because there's a special day in Ukraine. It's the 35th anniversary of the Ukraine state following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. So it's pretty a symbolic meeting. I know that the Prime Minister is going to be co-chairing the coalition of the willing, which is of course that international group supporting the long-term stability and security of the embattled nation. Now, talking about those Russian threats, the context behind that, Innie, is that a couple of weeks ago, the Ukrainian or the Russian embassy here in London basically said, the UK needs to be prepared for retaliation because there were accusations that some missiles that were flown into Russia were British made. And it appears as if, those threats have only strengthened rather than weakened the British resolve. I believe that this morning, Andy Burnham has arrived on Ukrainian soil with a blueprint for a long-range defense missile that Britain had historically created and manufactured here in the UK, and borrowed to Ukraine. Now Andy Burnham is giving them the blueprint so they can essentially make them themselves. So really, I think they're showing Russia, which is what Britain has done since the beginning of the war, that they stand shoulder to shoulder with them and are prepared to assist on all fronts.
And I'm sure we'll get stories from his visit there. The other thing is a trend, they say, of people driving on the wrong side in the UK. What's that about?
Yes, well, I haven't seen this, but anybody who knows what, the environment, should we say the toxic environment around social media can be, does mean that at times, there are pretty alarming, criminal activities that trend. And I think, one of the reasons why this story has perhaps been on one or two newspapers today is because there was a pretty devastating crash in the north of the country over the weekend involving 7 individuals, all of them deceased. 2 sadly happened to be police officers, and the other 5 were teenagers. And these teenagers were driving on the wrong side of the road at very high speed, and unfortunately that head-on collision killed all of those involved. And I think what the British government, in particular the Defence Minister, is saying is that when you go online, particularly in places like TikTok, a lot of the comments, so it's the comments section where we know it all goes down, is becoming quite alarming, and the British government say that the comment section is actually glorifying criminal activity. And what they want essentially is for these social media account managers to do their due diligence and make sure that these comments are removed, or these videos are not pushed up so that people can see them. And they've threatened this morning that if TikTok and platforms like it don't act, then they will be seeking legal action through Britain's Online Safety Act. So yeah, I think this has again been put into the public domain because of that horrific crash involving 2 police officers and 5 teenagers, all killed over the weekend because one party was driving down the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, sad indeed, Juliana. Thank you so much for keeping us updated on that. Juliana Olainka is our London bureau chief. Moving on to other stories now, the United States is preparing what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent describes as its most aggressive financial campaign yet against Iran, as Washington seeks to intensify pressure on Tehran's economy. And the move comes as Iran tightens rules for vessels passing through the Strait of Hormuz and warns that ships violating its regulations could face penalties or detention. The escalating tensions are raising fresh concerns for global trade and energy supplies. And Iranian oil cargoes are becoming increasingly scarce as traders and buyers prepare for tougher U.S. action against Iran. The decline in available shipments is particularly significant for China, which is Iran's biggest oil consumer. Still on Iran, the rial, their currency, is falling to another record low as the country faces intensified economic pressure from the United States. The currency is losing ground against the dollar amid concerns over sanctions, trade disruptions, and access to foreign exchange. Away from Iran and the U.S. now, Norway says it is pressing ahead with oil and gas development in the Arctic despite the European Union's support for a moratorium on new Arctic hydrocarbon activity. The energy minister says Norway will continue developing resources in the Barents Sea and no longer sees itself simply as Europe's green battery. And European gas prices may need to rise to around £100 per megawatt per hour to encourage enough purchases ahead of winter. This is according to Goldman Sachs. The investment bank says Europe faces a tighter supply outlook as countries work to replenish gas storage before the colder months. Still in Europe, France's finance minister says cutting taxes for country's largest farms will not be easy as the government considers ways to support the agricultural sector. Farmers are demanding greater financial relief amid pressure from rising costs and competition. But With France facing tight budget constraints, the government is weighing support for agriculture against the need to control public spending. In Asia, Chinese electric vehicle stocks are falling after a record recall involving millions of vehicles, and that's raising fresh concerns over electronic door handle safety. Tesla and several other automakers are recalling vehicles in China over concerns that electronic handles may become difficult to operate during emergencies. And Samsung electronic shares are sliding more than 8% after investors react negatively to the company's record shareholder return plan. Samsung is committing about 110 trillion won, that's about $80 billion, to shareholder returns over the next 3 weeks. And in Japan, the government bond auctions there, they're putting global bond market in focus. Investors look for signs of demand for Japanese debt. Higher Japanese yields could make domestic bonds more attractive to investors who hold overseas assets, including U.S. treasuries. Those are the global stories, and that's it for Business Morning today. Thank you so much for being a part of our Monday journey. We have another one coming, but before then, I'll see at 1:30 for Business Incorporated. 25 minutes updates from the world of business. I'm Mini John McQuarrie. Talk to you later.